we're off. Welcome back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. Very special interview today and a very special co-host for me, although you will see him more regularly going forward. It is former darts star Matt Edgar. Matt, this is what, appearance four for you on this channel now.
Yeah, they're adding up now, aren't they? Getting a few in the can.
You are getting a few in the can indeed, but our guest at this time, I mean, he really does need no introduction. However, I think the simplest way to say it is 5 stars, 3 words, Rob Van Dam. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Thank you very much. That's a good way to do it. 3 words, and then they know what's coming because sometimes they want to go with 3 letters, right?
Yeah, I was thinking that, but then I remembered your post. I know you do that. I'm used to saying RVD, but I still say
Yeah.
Van Dam. And just a quick one, Rob, before we start getting into it. One of my biggest memories of meeting you was over here in London. You've done a Comic Con over here in London. I was meant to bring the picture along, but I forgot it. You signed my belt, which was Edge's Rated R Championship at the time, and I met Edge literally after I met you. But that was one of my best memories of meeting you at the Comic Con in London.
Nice. Yeah. Not sure which one, but I think, I've been to a few of them, but was that the one maybe where I had my comic book there, my graphic novel? Do you know? It doesn't ring a bell. That's fine. I just
Graphic
remember,
novel doesn't. No, it was. I
yeah,
think you were there as
okay.
a wrestler more than anything else. At that point, it was wrestling more than novels
Okay.
that you
Yeah.
were there for.
Um, on the name, by the way, in 2001 when I was in WWE, Shano McMahon gave me some advice that I always think it was good advice, but I just didn't take it. I felt like I was already established at that point, and I wanted to give the people the choice. But he said, you should stick with one thing that you say, either Rob Van Dam or RVD. That way, everybody will be able to say it with you in unison, and it'd be better, And I was like, that does sound like really smart. And it's like, but I've just been like doing it for so long, which was only like 5 years at that point. Now that doesn't seem like so long, but I did, and I felt like, that sounds like really good advice. But sometimes I like to do RVD, sometimes I like to do Rob Van Dam, and every time I take a picture with a fan, I go, "You ready?" At a convention, and then I go for one and they go for the other, and then it's like, Rob Van Dam. I always think should have taken Shayna's advice.
Yeah, funnily enough, that is exactly what you done to me. The picture is us doing that, and I think either I'm holding the championship or you are. I can't quite remember that far, but yeah, it was. You definitely said that. I do remember at that time. But
Yeah.
Matt, welcome to the show. What's your first question for Rob this evening?
I think it's going to go straight along with that because something that really triggered a thought for me there was that word advice. And I was sat in Philadelphia not too long ago on the Hall of Fame speech for Paul Heyman. And Paul Heyman referenced you quite a bit during that, Rob. What is that conversation or that build up like when he's actually asking you for advice about how to sort of be himself
You mean before his Hall of Fame
before the
speech?
Hall of Fame? Yeah.
He doesn't ask anybody about advice. I didn't. I never talked to Paul before his Hall of Fame speech about what he was going to say. That's crazy for me to think that anybody would think anything different, because Paul's the man, and that rare moments like that, at least they seem rare to me. Probably not as much as they felt like they were, but that's where you really get to be yourself, and you get to deliver your own message, what's important to you and your values, and what you really want to say to these people, instead of having having to talk about how this title defense Friday means more than anything in my life to me. Come on, like that to me that gets a little old. Like every wrestler says they're the best. I'm the best in the world. That's every single wrestler. That's every UFC fighter. Maybe every boxer. But it's all about But when there's moments like a Hall of Fame speech, that's when there's no box that you're trapped inside of, and you can I don't know if he's Paul ran anything by anybody. I kind of doubt he did, unless I doubt he did.
Mm.
When I did my the speech at One Night Stand, the first one when I had the injured knee and I couldn't wrestle, so 2005,
Yeah.
everyone was shocked because to hear what I had to say, because that was the first time that I was shooting off the cuff, so they say, and just saying what I wanted to say. And I didn't tell anybody what I was going to say. Nobody asked. I just had the freedom out there. And that was special for me because that was ECW. Otherwise, they would have wanted to hear what I wanted to say. They would have wanted more control of the WWE RVD. At least that's how I felt. But I did, with the exception of Edge, I do remember before I gave my speech, I remember I got, and I said, "Hey, let me run some things by you, let me just get your, and I hit him with like some bulletin points, whatever was on my mind or whatever. And, but besides that, I was out there like, you visualize, that includes not just your delivery, but the reception as well. And then you go out there and boom, you want to see it go down just like it did in your vision. So the instant gratification of everybody responding and it being at least as good as you hoped it would, or validating your opinion of how good it would be anyway, that's boom, that's the payoff.
Is
Yeah.
one harder than the other? So, like, is it easier to be Rob Van Dam trying to sell a match or a moment, or is it easier to be this is me?
It's definitely easier to be for me to just be me. And I think for all wrestlers, the more that they learn to include the real them into their delivery, into the whole perspective of what they're doing, then the better it is. Just like even with angles in the ring, storylines or whatever, when it can be a little more real or whatever, it's always better because then it's organic. It just works out, and the result, um, can be a way that you can't really plan on having. So, you know, um, and by the way, sometimes they might want me to talk about something that's not that important to me, you know? You listen to these promos and sometimes it's like, I don't care what happens in the world as long as I get my hands on you, I don't care if my kids die. Come on. I don't like doing those where I gotta, because then sometimes it's just acting. Sometimes I'm like, dude, I could give a shit about this match I'm talking about. I got 10 matches before then. That's how it was on the WWE grind anyway. Sometimes it's like you got to tap into something, and that's part of, your part performer for sure. But my favorite part has always been, and I think that's why I'm known as being more real, more legit, more genuine than a lot of the larger than life characters. For me, I've always been more appreciative when I can really believe in what I'm talking about.
Definitely so, Rob. I just wanted to ask about a little bit about the obviously the scheduling, and I remember you on I think it was on with Sean Oliver doing a U shoot once, and you said like I got to a point where I was literally phoning, I think it was your then wife, and saying I've done, I've had enough, I
My
can't
evil
do it.
ex.
Yeah, you can't have, the travel's just ridiculous. I can't deal with it. That's what it is. Do you think that wrestling even now would benefit from an off season where you say, for example, they do the WrestleMania, they do the Raw after Mania, and then they have a couple of weeks off where they just run some highlight shows or something just to give the talent a bit of a break?
Maybe. I think that's a tough call because on one side, sure, the everyone could be a little more refreshed and physically not pushed to quite to the limit, but at the same time, um, one old school um, rule of thumb that we've always gone by, which I'm an exception to a lot of things. I think this is one of them. But one rule I've always heard my entire career from wrestlers is that time off is the wrestler's enemy.
Mm,
And when you see guys that would get laid off or their contract expires or they're not wrestling for a little while, a lot of times they would say that they all the aches and pains were set in, but a lot of that has to do with the life change too. You know what I mean? If
mm,
you're gonna have time off and still want to be in wrestling condition, there's things you would have to still do. You couldn't just be gone for 6 months and go right back in. You'd be rusty, your body wouldn't be used to it. And one thing that's strange about wrestling is that you get conditioned and used to it, so that works in the opposite of what you would think. As far as like when I used to wrestle for All Japan, it would be for tours and then I would come home. So I would go for a tour. The short one every year was February, a 2 week tour for All Japan. The long one was November, 5 weeks for the tag team tournament. And anyway, on day one, everything hurt, and I'm only off for 3 weeks or whatever, but day one and afterwards, I'm so sore. Oh my God, I hope this isn't going to hurt me, for the whole next 3 weeks. Now I got to deal with my back, whatever it is, you got to deal with it. But then after day two and then day three, pretty soon, it's like, okay, you're in wrestling condition and it's like your body adapts to it. And that's what it feels like. So, I feel like, in that circumstance, which has been suggested a lot over the years, but having seasons or time off, I could see where it would hurt the product. I don't know that we do it the best way by squeezing everything out in one several years short run, however long they can go. But maybe that is the way to do it because also you're also fighting against time. You know what I mean? If you get 3 years out of a wrestler, and you get it at the same time where they're basically about the same age, well, that's different than giving them a year off in between each year. And then you're still only getting the 3 years of work, but now it's over 6 years, and the wrestler is more tired and out of wrestling condition because of the time off. It's a tough one.
mm. Interesting. Go on, Matt.
I've got a bit of a three-parter here, and this is probably a bit because of sort of crossing over sports. So I want to talk about nerves. So the first part of it is when in the process, when you know you've got a big match coming up, when do the nerves sort of start kicking in?
Uh, for me, I usually start to check in when I change my clothes and I start doing my stretch routine. And I like to stretch for a full hour if I have it. And I'm doing a body check. I'm getting myself into the mood and perspective that I need to have in order to work. When I'm done stretching, I put myself through like so many positions, and test the limits on so many things. I feel like I could take on anything. After a really good stretch, I get up, jumping up and down on my feet, feeling great. When I start the stretch, I'm thinking about what I got tonight, and little nerves start kicking because it's like, okay, we got a job to do, let's go to work. And I start thinking, and then after stretching, I feel really good. I usually have some ideas in my head. I visualize, had, some kind of idea of something, that would be good in my mind for the night or whatever. And then after talking to whoever, when it comes time to start like warming up, I'm the nerves are creeping up on me right then, so we all have our own processes of dealing with nerves. One of mine is cannabis when it's there and available. It's not always, and that's okay too. It's just a preference, but then I can feel like I'm at my best because nerves plus anything that's not 100%. Maybe you're a little tired. Maybe you got food poisoning, God forbid, but maybe you got diarrhea, maybe you got a little flu, maybe you got a runny nose, just sinuses. You can't breathe right. There's so much, that's going against the ultimate way that you would like to be feeling, but you kind of like knock all of those down by warming up and convincing yourself, and you're fighting all those nerves. And then you sometimes when I go out through the curtain, I'm so calm, it's crazy. Sometimes I go through and I'm just like, hey, I like that RVD son, good for you. Hey, I know you're a fan, and I'm just like, I feel like my heart rate hasn't even gone up at all yet, and I'm just like so comfortable. And sometimes it's the opposite, especially if I've put a lot on my own task list as far as like risks, things that could be dangerous, whether I could get hurt or they could just go off. I hate to screw up, and when and miss something um, when it's at the expose of, still for me, memories of the crowd saying, "You effed up, you effed up." You know what I mean? That's what taught me to really be like, I do not. I want this to go off 100%. It taught me to be, so hard on myself, and so I go through all of that, and sometimes the nerves are while I'm like going down clapping. Sometimes I don't feel so great about the match yet, and I'm still thinking like, "Whew, okay, let's see." But then by the time I roll in the ring, usually confidence takes over. I'm like, "This is my office. I mean, how much time have I spent here? This ain't gonna be the one and only bad match that I've had in the last 20 years. Come on, you know."
Yeah, I get that. As soon as you get to sort of the stage or for yourself the ring, it's like this is the familiar bit. This is the bit I know. So all the
Yeah.
other bits can
Before
be
that, I'm
different.
preparing. I'm preparing, and part of preparing my mindset definitely does involve dealing with nerves of screwing up. Just nerves and that can, a screw up can happen in several different ways. But like I explained, it could be as simple as like me. And sometimes I want to challenge myself. Hey, I want to do a springboard off the guardrail and then do a helo into the crowd tonight. And then in my mind, I'm thinking like, man, I hope I don't slip on that springboard on the guardrail. And it really, well, I can put so much pressure on. You can almost make yourself screw up if you don't deal with it right.
Do you have a preference on that? So you said that sometimes you come out it's really calm. Sometimes I'm guessing it's before you step out, it's really butterflies. Do you prefer to come out with that adrenaline flowing, or do you like to sort of make the entrance when you're feeling calm and relaxed?
As long as I feel good, I guess I could see both of those being equally as good, because sometimes when I'm like really calm, it's almost weird. I'm like, I almost feel like it's a dream. That's happened like a few times where I'm just like, dude, you are you warmed up? You got to go to a wrestling match. But I'm so comfortable. And it feels, everything just feels so right on. But then other times I can feel like that, get this Superman vibe going on where I'm not calm at all. I'm full of energy and I come out like, whoo, damn, I feel good right now. Like, boom, let's do this. And that's pretty fun too. That's probably what a lot of fans admire about wrestling and fantasize about being one of those wrestlers, is having that feeling, like the Road Warriors used to say, "Oh, what a rush!" Like sometimes it's like that too, there's so many factors from what kind of travel I had to get there and how much rest and how the day went, and I usually drink a couple of 5-hour energies in the day before leading up to my match, and so there's a lot going into the process. But I guess I prefer when I feel like Superman, because it is a very physical thing, and I like better when I feel like jumping over the top rope from the floor than when I feel like just taking my time and just, they're both good. But when it comes to getting in the ring and delivering and being the whole effing show, I like a little caffeine.
So if you was to give any advice, I've tried to pick out a few things within there for people if they was struggling with performance anxiety. From what I picked out in what you're saying, visualization, breathing, routine.
Absolutely. Yeah. You get a process. I mentioned the stretch. My whole routine, I think if you ask any wrestlers, I don't know about all the new guys as much, but from my generation, if you interviewed anybody and asked them who stretched before the match, I don't think they would tell you anybody but me because there was never, with the exception of two people, there was never throughout all of my years anybody that would like get down on the floor and put some time into and I have to feel like I'm at my best. I have to go through that, and then boom, I'm ready. But Devon Dudley stretches, and CM Punk stretched, and they didn't have an hour routine like me, but that was part of their daily process. Other people would come by and they would say like, "Oh man, I got to start stretching with you, Rob," and maybe they would do it for one day and then never do it again. And I understand that a little bit more now because it used to feel really great when I stretched every day because I was wrestling every day, and then after taking some time off because I'm not wrestling as much, it's not as enjoyable when it hurts to stretch. So I get that. I understand that. But my process before my match, I mean, I do jumping jacks, and I do certain foot jumps, going with my feet together, going side to side, shuffling forward and backwards, spinning, pivoting, while I'm jumping. I do some kicks, stretch my legs out. I do some other kicks, and that's I always in order to when I do all that, I'm like, dude, you're ready. And also I'm judging how I feel when I'm doing that. But yeah, for advice, get a process and stick with it. And then that is there's no guarantees you won't get hurt, but that's your insurance card. That's you doing what you can do to back up the investment you have in your body so that, after I stretch, I put myself through so many positions. I feel like when I go out there, I can take a DDT right on my head and fold over on my neck and I'll be fine. And that's because of my warm up and my process. And yeah, I would definitely advise anybody to do that. Some of the guys that just go out there and do a little bit of this and walk right out there, they must be the real tough guys because I don't think I could do that.
No, that is yeah. Well, stretching and it also warms the muscles up as well. Don't forget that's another key thing, especially when you're playing sports. Rob, just a
Gets
change
the
of
blood circulating.
yeah.
And also, it's a body check. A lot of times before a match, I won't know what's hurt on me until I'm doing my stretch. So I'm like, oh, that's weird. I didn't notice my ankle was bothering me today until I start working on it. And I'm like, okay, I'll be conscious of that. And I even stretch my lungs too. Like we were talking about breathing. I stretch my lungs. I saw Randy Orton doing this a couple of years ago when I was just walking the dressing room. I was like, hey, that's my thing. I've never seen anybody else do that. And he said, I know you taught me. I was like, oh, okay.
Brilliant. Yeah, so switching gears. This weekend, obviously, in the WWE, it's the Elimination Chamber, and you were one of the first people in the first match of the Elimination Chamber, and it was a massively different structure to what anyone's probably used to. You have the pods, you've got the steel around it. How did you kind of piece that together and get used to that environment inside that Elimination Chamber?
Uh, Somebody in the daytime came around to all of us, told us that we were in the match. Um, I I feel like it was hanging up on the from the ceiling, and they were telling us, at 2 o'clock or whatever, they're going to drop everything down, and if you want to get in the ring and feel it around and stuff, it's different. You might have some different ideas what you can do or whatever, and in the meantime, until we bring it down, just kind of be thinking in your head, and look at it. It was like that. So it's I like different. I always like outside of the box when I can, especially when it's a hardcore element. I feel like that's where I thrive and can show my durability, ingenuity, innovativeness. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, maybe jump out, catch, onto it, and then jump backwards, which became the Spider-Man spot, which I had to fight to get that in. Thank God Kane took it, or nobody would have seen it. And they would have. No, it wasn't Kane that took it. It was Kane that said it was his favorite spot after watching the whole thing. But anyway, it was like that. And then, there's when you go over the rope to the outside, there's not padding there. It's like steel grate, So we had to get in there, kind of feel it, imagine it, and like I said before, visualize what we could.
Hmm. That is interesting because again, it seems to be one of those structures that everybody I wouldn't say fears, but it probably hurts a lot more on that steel structure than it would do in a wrestling, just in obviously a normal cage match, for example, because there's so many different elements to it. But oh god,
It's
you
like
could
comparing it to the ramp. When you go up
yeah
there on the stage, that there's no forgiveness on those metal grates. And I watch old footage of me doing all these bumps on it, and I'm just like, damn, that could have stayed with me for a while.
yeah. I wanted to go back and we would be if you didn't speak about ECW, I don't know what we'd be doing here. I'll give you an idea in the UK of how we got it. We would probably get it about 2 a.m., probably about a month behind what it was over here. So we would literally come in from a night out, probably beard and a bit like the Sandman probably most nights. So how we would come in, and it would be on TV.
Yeah.
Literally be on TV. But there was a match that I remember, and forgive me, I can't remember if it was a pay-per-view or just an ECW taping. You took on Jerry Lynn in the match, and I think it took a bump to the outside of the ring, and it looked absolutely horrific. But anyway, going back to ECW,
I know what
if
bump you're talking about. It knocked
you
him out.
yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I can't remember what the move was, but I remember
I had
you.
him crouched on the top rope, and I kicked him off of it. And when he fell, his foot kind of hung up on the I think the second rope for a second,
Yeah.
and so it made him dive down. And normally we didn't have any mats. That was part of
Yeah.
ECW's character, but in certain states, the athletic commission required it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So New York, I believe, was one of those states where, they made us put mats out there. But when Jerry took that bump, his hands were out in front of him as he's falling down head first, and his hand actually pushed the mat away so
Wow.
and cleared the floor so that his head could hit the cement and knocked him
Wow.
out.
Knocked him out. Yes, that was the bump. But we'd spoken to a few ex-ECW guys, and we've had just incredible Francine, Todd Gordon, and obviously yourself and Devon Dudley. And interestingly enough, this question has got different answers. There is a majority answer, but I won't say it until you've answered it. But if
My my
ECW
my answer is never the majority. It's usually not. I am one of a kind for a reason. Let's see what you got.
that is. And the question is quite simple actually. It's obviously nowadays where you've got so much streaming, you've got everything, obviously Netflix, you've got Apple, you've got Google, you've got anything else. If that ECW of your year was around, or the streaming opportunities was around in those years, would ECW, do you think, still be around today in 2025?
Um, no, I don't think that it would.
No? You're
And
right. You are the minority.
yeah, there was too many. Here's why I think there's too many things about ECW that made it cool that are not long-term standing things. Things such as lighting fans on fire. You know, I mean, diving out into the crowd without plants, I mean, it'd be lawsuit city, which it did start to be. I got sued twice, which just went to Paul, not to me in the company. Um, but the uh the trying to think of the right word to use here, but the what appeared to be lawlessness, that car crash appeal that you had where you couldn't look away because holy crap, I can't believe they're actually doing this on TV. I don't think that if we were doing that on streaming services even that it would be able, first off, the shock might eventually wear off. And the
Mm.
reason I think that is because on Instagram, I follow a lot of these garbage matches, where they, uh, what are they, death matches,
Mhm.
where they beat each other up with light bulbs and slice each other up. And from most of what I watch, there's very little wrestling. It's like the guys don't even look like they were trained to wrestle. Uh, it's like two guys grab each other on the back of their neck and jump off a semi truck together and then both crash through something. And it's like, who did what to who and who was that supposed to hurt? And it's a total different thing. That doesn't, it never would have the appeal to the masses, the car crash appeal in the same way as the ECW product when it was peaking. I feel like it either would have had to compromise and add a lot of mainstream mumbo jumbo into it, and take away a lot of its edginess. Um, um, or I feel like by now, if streaming didn't have the censorship guidance that TV did, and they were able to they wanted. I feel like by now it would have fizzled out.
Yeah, interesting. It was just so you and Devon were on the same page. The other three said it would. Matt, do you have any ECW questions for Rob?
Not ECW ones,
Okay, go on in.
but I've probably got that same boring question that a lot of people probably ask, and it's regarding dream matches. If it was to happen in 2025, is there anyone in the world of wrestling, sort of a top three of people you'd actually like to face?
I don't really like fantasize about stuff like that. Um, I think it wouldn't suck to have a rematch with John Cena on his retirement tour.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Sabu's talking about doing a retirement
Is
match or series of matches or whatever comes together out of it, and that would be cool. In a lot of ways to be part of that. You said I gotta say three, huh? So, um, okay. I man, I'm gonna have a hard time coming up with a third. Um, I
That's an
guess.
answer in itself, essentially. That's cool.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really don't think like that. It's like, um, I do get asked that, is there anyone that you get to wrestle in your career that you like to, and this and that, and it really, not that I don't enjoy the job. I love like the showing off aspect of it, and it's fun sometimes, and sometimes it would just be business, for me, for most of my career, it was definitely more just business, like I was taught the first time I was allowed in a dressing room to choose. You're either a fan or you're a wrestler. That's what Sabu and Sheik told me. Like you're one or the other. You can't be both. Don't be because I was there as a student. I hadn't had a first match yet. It was in Ohio. Sheik was wrestling Jerry Lawler that night, and I was excited to be there. But they were like, don't be asking anybody for their autograph. If you're one of the boys, you're one of the boys. And that was just taken out of me. And anytime I even was like, "Oh my God, they're so and so sad," would be like, "Shut up or get out of it." It was like that's how I was taught. So it might have taken a lot of the enjoyment out of a lot of my career, but at the same time, I don't regret it because that's the way that it was. And I'm old school, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Sabu said, "Don't talk to anybody unless they talk to you first, unless you're going to introduce yourself. Then just shake their hand, look them in the eye, and then don't say anything else unless they talk to you." And so, when I would be wrestling guys that I grew up watching, I wasn't still the kid anymore. I was looking out for me now, you know. I couldn't be like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm wrestling Greg Valentine tonight. And I used to watch him. I mean, there'd be a little part of me that realizes that, and I'm grateful, but it's more along the sense of like, wow, I'm following my dreams. This is real, making it happen. It wasn't the same thing as being the fan. And it's always been like after just a few years in, it was always just business, business. Like, don't do that, or and it was Sabu and Sheik both, like they would tell me if I'm getting over somewhere, what are they paying you? All right, tell me you need more. I don't really want to rock the boat. No, forget that, man. They should be paying you more. You're a lot over not more now than you were when you made that deal, and they need you. Boom, 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 and so I think because of that. I don't have like fantasy matches where I think like, wow, it'd be such a good matchup wrestling this guy. It'd be weird for me to think that. There's guys that are my friends. I enjoy wrestling guys that are my friends. Sometimes it's a lot more fun afterwards, especially when we work our asses off and afterwards we're like, man, we killed each other. That was great. But then other times I wrestle people that I don't know or don't like, and sometimes those are great matches too.
Yeah, that's it. That is actually quite interesting because some wrestlers are like that. They don't have that sort of fantasy booking, like you say. Rob, I want
I
to
don't even
switch.
have like a favorite color. Like I don't think my mind works that way.
Yeah,
When people ask me favorites, if you ask me what my favorite movie is, it's probably gonna change if you ask me, every few months or so. I think I mean, it is business the way I got trained, but at the same time, I'm also a bit of a stoic when it comes to philosophy.
Mm.
Not that I study stoicism, but when I look at Stoicism, it's almost exactly in line and consistent with all of my values and beliefs. And because of that, it's, a lot of stuff is just taken as more matter of fact instead of injecting a bunch of emotion into it.
Yeah. Excellent. I want to switch gears now, Rob. Talk about only wrestlers. How did this all begin, and what was the basis behind it?
Yeah, yeah, thanks. So only wrestlers is well, first off, it came to be through several meetings. My wife Katie
Hmm.
had been wrestling for these guys several times. They have a group UWW, and it was an all women's group, and I would go to the shows sometimes when I was able to go when Katie was booked, and they always would ask me, pick my brain, and try to get me involved somehow or whatever. And then one time they said they wanted a meeting, and then they said, what would you do if you ran a wrestling company that would be different? That I thought about it, and I never saw myself as having a wrestling company or being a booker, an agent, even, but you never know. But anyway, but what I did tell him, I said, well, I've always had this idea, like forever, I had this idea where the fans could vote on who wrestles who and actually set up the card. And that was my original idea.
Mm.
I had it years ago. Because I remember I used to think about the ECW guys. I would think like Kid Cash and all these guys. And I was thinking like part of the show would be if we had the website to be able to add up votes and do it like right before the matches. My original idea was someone goes around with a microphone and, hey, Kid Cash, well, the fans have voted. Are you ready to find out who you wrestled tonight? And it'd be a shoot. Like they only have, half hour, whatever till their match, which would take a certain caliber wrestler because other people want to be planned 3 days ahead of time. And like I got New Jack. All right, man. Well, let me go warm up. They'd go, New Jack, you ready to find out who you wrestle? Shit, I got King Cash. Man, I'm gonna tear him up. You better tell him I'm gonna bring a fork, whatever. But that was my original idea. When I shared that with them, we started expanding on it. On would that really be possible? So we came up with only wrestlers. Let me explain it in two separate halves. Half of it, it's a platform where fans can follow, stay connected to their favorite wrestlers. The wrestlers create their own content. Each wrestler that has their own profile, it's like it's their own business. They can put in whatever content they want. as far as videos, pictures, they can live stream. They have a store on their profile, um, and all kinds of different ways that they can get make contact and get it to the fans. And it's up to each wrestler to decide what they want to do, how often they want to do it, what their subscription price is, everything. So that's half of it. The other half is that when the fans become followers of those wrestlers, now they join an association, and then all of us together make the Only Wrestlers Association, the OWA. So we're going to be doing live wrestling shows, and the fans will be voting on different things. It's not going to be just a platform where you set the whole card up. The first show that we have is March 20th in Hollywood, coming up real soon. Um, part of the reason is to raise some awareness, some funds, whatever we can do for the Los Angeles fire victims. And I got to get more details on that because I have an outfit that I'm planning on donating to the cause. And um, anyway, at this show, there's a few matches the fans get to vote on. I think they voted on who Brian Cage was going to wrestle, which I think is Chris Masters.
Yep.
And now they're voting on like one of the girls. But the whole thing is set up so that as the association grows and the company grows, the votes will grow, and they'll be voting on more important things like what towns we should come to, and it even goes from there. But I don't want to get too far ahead. But it's all set up to start out small, and then we would start out with everyone coming on free, helping us work out our kinks on our website, and we still have little things on our website and we're always going to be improving it and making it better. But it's set up so that as it grows, everything else grows, including the time, the attention that everyone's going to be putting towards their own profiles. And myself and Katie and the OW, we are all free, always will be free. So you don't even have to pay anything to join, but you do have to be a paid subscriber to watch the March 20th show, which will be live streaming.
Yep.
And you can either pay to watch it, or you can just pay to subscribe to one of the wrestlers, and then you get to watch it for free anyway. And all the wrestlers that are on that night, their prices are set at the same as a ticket, which is $6.95.
Ah, brilliant. That's interesting because I'm just going on this.
Yeah.
It's onlywrestlers.com for those of you out there.
Thank
So
you.
they're voting on Zaya Brookside's opponent, which is either going to be Danny Moe, Jordan Blue, or currently Tessa Blanchard, the newly re-signed TNA wrestler. Tessa Blanchard is winning. And above that, more importantly, because I watch a lot of NWA, so I'm very interested with this one. Kerry Morton, you get to vote on who Kerry Morton's opponent is going to be. Kerry
Okay.
Morton's great.
Looking forward to meeting him, by the way. I've known Ricky forever, but I don't think I've met Kerry
Kerry's
yet.
very good. I watch NWA weekly on
Cool.
X, and he's really, really good. We review it actually on
Awesome.
the channel. You got Caleb Coney, Charlie Huss, or Luke Hawks. Charlie Huss, please, for anyone that's going to vote. And then finally on there, you get to pick or vote for the second, or the city of the second show that you're going to put on. It's Philly, Chicago, Nashville, Vegas, Phoenix, Los Angeles, Houston, or Atlanta is the
Wow.
pick.
You're teaching me, so I didn't even know. That's good to know.
There
I
you
didn't know
go.
we already had the second voter listed on there.
Yeah,
So
there's
what
16 days
yeah.
left on that one. There's 10 days left on Kerry, and there's 8 hours left on Zaya Brookside. So you best get voting, everybody. Matt, look, we're starting to run out of time with Rob. Can you give Rob one last question before I give him his last question, and then we wrap up?
This is probably going to be the weirdest one you've been asked. And
Okay.
I've been going on Google, and I do the old "why do wrestlers, how do wrestlers" sort of questions. And the most Googled search one I can find right now is "why do wrestlers tend to have long hair?"
Hair?
Yeah. Yep.
Long hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to be Rob Van Dam.
That's simple. That is the best answer you're gonna get. Rob, again, last couple before we wrap up. You've had a lot of great entrance musics in the day. Walk, you had obviously One of a Kind and everything. Do you have a personal? I know you don't do like favorites or fantasy, but do you have a personal favorite of those songs that you had?
Um, I, I, no, really, so if I had to pick, I would go with One of a Kind, but really it has to do with the way it makes me feel, the
Yeah.
vibration within my own spirit, So when I wrestle, which I still do sometimes, and I'm on some random card somewhere in Canada, whatever, if they ask me, which they often do, like which song I would like to play, I always put it on them and say, well, look, you know your town, you know the local fans more. Are they WWE fans or ECW fans?
Yeah.
And we have the TNA song
Oh, I
as
love that
well.
one. Yeah.
So it's always a surprise for me. Like when I tell them to pick it, and I never ask what it was or whatever. So when I'm waiting for my music and I'm going through those jumping jacks and kicks and everything, and I'm waiting, and I know my music's about to hit. It's I feel equally as excited in slightly different ways if they hit One of a Kind, and they start that riff,
Mhm.
then I'm like, yes, it's an ECW crowd. Like that's cool. I know, like I know how these people connect with me. But if I hear One of a Kind and that music starts, then I still know the fans, even if it's more of a WWF kind of RVD that we're suggesting. I feel like the pop from the fans, the way they can relate to that song, and the memories of the good matches they've had while hearing that song, like that all comes out and is received by me as well. So I really do like both of those, and even my TNA song, which would be a second if those were in tie for first.
Yeah, I remember that. It was like Rob Van Dam. It said the whole effing show, I think it said
Yeah.
afterwards. I think that's the TNA one, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
my
Yeah, Rob.
friend, my friend made that song.
Oh, really?
So I was like, I did the video for it and everything. Um, as a matter of fact, it says a chair shot straight to the head.
Yeah.
Donk. That was an actual real chair shot
I
that
was it.
yeah, we did we did that and recorded it in the studio. I think it was me taking it, of course, taking the chair shot, but yeah, little tidbit of information for you there. That chair shot was done in the studio at my expense, so we could get that sound effect in that song.
Brilliant. Rob, look, it's been an incredible interview with us. Obviously, guys, check out onlywrestlers.com. Like I said, you can vote for a lot of things on there. Get signed up, subscribe to people, get them on there. Obviously, Rob's mentioned his one's free, but obviously, there's other wrestlers on there you can subscribe to. Don't forget to watch the
Some of them
stream.
are free too. And we have I think we have over 300 wrestlers right now, and they're still signing more wrestlers signing up every day, more fans signing up every day. I still have a lot of wrestlers that I've told them that I'm going to teach them how to use it. Like Sabu, for instance, he's still waiting for me, and I was here last night and I forgot, but I got to show him how to use it um, and a lot of guys. But yeah, we're growing. And I just wanted to mention that we have a community chat center there. So it's a bit of a social thing too. Like go there, go in the chat room and talk to other fans, other wrestlers. Everybody can use that at the same time, the chat room. So we really listen to what everyone said. You can personally instant message us, and I actually respond to all the messages that my followers send to me. So it's cool. We're enjoying it, having fun, looking forward to it growing. I appreciate you helping me get the word out. And we have, by the way, within the first week, we had fans from over 25 different countries.
Wow.
So yeah,
Brilliant.
but we definitely need some more in the UK and in
Definitely
England.
so. And
In
I can
England.
vouch Rob does respond to messages because he's had a lot from me over these last.
That's how this interview came about. I
That is
should say
exactly.
that. I don't want to get flooded with the interview requests,
No,
but this one's been fun. So at least there's that.
Exactly that, Rob. Again, thank you so much. And look, if you're ever in the UK and you fancy wrestling for a championship, make sure you hook us up because we have got a wrestling championship on the UK wrestling scene that we'll be more than happy to bring you along and have you have a match for that championship if in the future that is of
Okay, I'll
interest.
keep that in mind.
Really brilliant. But guys, this has been the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. A big thanks to my special co-host, Matt Edgar. Like I said, he's been 5 stars, 3 words, Rob Van Dam. And until next time,
And if I
everybody,
happen to say 3 letters, then what's coming up?
RV.
RV. It works, right? I
It
just
does.
gotta, it's gotta start with 3 letters or 3 words.
Exactly that, guys. Until then, big coming up on the show soon, Scott Steiner and Gangrel. But until next time, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye.